Hello, welcome to ThePrint. I am Amana Begam Ansari, and the recent row over I Love Muhammad made me think of my own upbringing in the Barelvi Muslim community. Barawafat, also known as Malwid Miladul Nabi or simply the Prophet's birthday, was a season of warmth. Neighborhood came alive in the ways that stay with you. Street would glow with strings of light, temporary arches built with great care and beautiful display were set up to mark the occasion. Men and women would gather for the procession and night-long prayers. Then there were the relics, sacred objects carrying the weight of both history and faith, put on display for all to see, filling people with reverences and respect. For child, it felt magical, as if faith was not only something private but something shared, lived and visible. Looking back, it wasn't just about ritual, it was about belonging, about a community affirming its place through celebration. The only controversy I had ever known around Barafat was theological. Ultra-conservative movements like Wahhabism and Salafism long dismissed the commemoration as undesirable innovation, bid'ah, claiming it had no root in the Quran of the early practice of Islam. For what the reason the celebration is outright forbidden. That's the reason the celebration is outright forbidden in places like Saudi Arabia, Qatar. But even then, the conflict felt distant, something happening far away, in societies shaped by their own rigid interpretation. Here in India, especially within the Barelvi community, Wafat was not debated. It was lived, it was joy, remembrance, devotion. I never imagined that this day itself would become the center of controversy, not because of theological debates, but because of a simple message of devotion. That a banner displaying just a few words, I love Prophet, peace be upon him, could stir suspicion, arguments, and even political noise, speaks volumes about how deep the distrust is between communities. An expression of faith and love has now somehow become a matter of contention and politics. The counter arguments being pushed is that this is not just about the I love Muhammad, peace be upon him poster. They say an fire had to be lodged because such a display had never occurred before, that it was a new tradition introduced by the organizer of Parafat, and that putting it in a new location could potentially spark chaos. But how does a simple message of love for a religious figure become a provocation? Even if it is a new edition, even if it's displayed in a different place, what does it say about us if our response is suspicion rather than acceptance? It almost mirrors the flawed reasoning often used when Hindu religious procession pass through areas considered Muslim localities, and any objection or violence is excused as if it were inevitable. The logic is as absurd than it is now, because at its heart it assumes people cannot coexist, cannot tolerate another's religion without seeing it as somehow anti their own. And once that thinking takes root, it feeds into a cycle of mistrust. One side feels threatened by the other's expression, and the other side grows defensive and suspicious in return, and soon enough even the smallest gesture, whether a procession, a poster, or a prayer, becomes loaded with attention. Devotion and celebration are now rebranded as provocation, and communities in India are growing apart, and that's what needs solving on the ground, because the politics around such incidents do nothing for ordinary citizens. They only serve politicians, the loudest voices claiming to speak on behalf of entire communities gain power without ever delivering real governance, without ever being accountable. And what do ordinary people get in the return? At the best, a hollow sense of security or shallow feeling of supremacy over another community. Let's not pretend this divide is built entirely by others. As a community, Muslims too have contributed enough to deepen it. What chant like Sat and Sajuda, a call for murder in the name of blasphemy, become normalized in protest, we added fuel to the fire. As Maulana Wahiduddin Khan always said, the Quran prescribes no punishment for the blasphemy. You counter an argument with an argument, not with a sword. But we fail to embrace civil disagreement. We justified conditional violence. We politicize our faith. And today, even a simple and affirmative message of I love prophet is read as an attack. This doesn't absolve those who thrive on hatred and unfairness, but it does mean we too have some soul searching to do. If we want to reclaim our festivals, our faith, and even our public space, then we must begin by refusing to let love be weaponized. But that can only happen when communities stop turning every difference into a battlefield, and when we learn to separate faith from the politics of power, because once devotion become a competition, everyone loses the meaning of religion, the spirit of coexistence, and the ordinary people who only want to live without fear. For more such a video, keep watching The Print.